Hey, everybody, welcome to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I'm Tim Derling. My good buddy Matt Phillips
Hey,
is with me on this episode, as often happens. And on this episode, we're kind of doing, as we're nearing the end of the year, we're doing our best of 2024, what we feel are some of the best albums to come out this year. And I think that it's safe to say Matt's got a lot more albums to talk about than I do. I really don't have that many, but I do. I have some favorites, and I had a hard time picking what would be at the very top. So, Matt, I'll turn it over to you. I know you've got a lot of honorables before we get into our top five. So, take it away, 2024.
thanks, Tim. I won't spend too long on this. So for 2024, when I tallied everything up, I have 13 favorite albums, but I'm gonna focus on the top five. And actually, one of them just switched. I really had a chance to listen to a few of these this week, and anyway, I'll get into it really quickly here. So I'm showing you 13, but gonna focus on the top five. So these first eight are gonna come by pretty quickly. But in my top 13 is the latest album by the End Machine. They've done three albums. This is their first one with their new lead vocalist. And actually, this is probably my favorite of their albums.
Yeah.
My next one is not kind of breaking the rules a little bit, but this is Slash's latest album, which is all covers that he did with Gary Clark Jr. and Brian Johnson, and it's all traditional kind of blues covers. Excuse me. He also did a song. My favorite on here is track 8. Papa Was a Rolling Stone, just a random song that he did with Demi Lovato. I think it's a fantastic cover, the way they built that song. So,
Wow. I know
yeah,
they do All Well by Fleetwood Mac on there too. That was cool.
yeah. This is another one I thought this one would crack my top 10, but it just comes in at number 11. Black Country Communion's fifth album. We finally get another album from the guys, and there wasn't a lot of hype around this one. I didn't really hear much about it. Um, I'm waiting to buy this on vinyl, but it's really heavy. But didn't quite make it into my favorite albums.
Well, I wonder why they didn't make the picture of the ship there with the lights upside down so it looked like a V for
Yeah,
fun.
exactly. Kind of gives you a tiny little bit of Boston vibes, except that it's very dark. I think
Yeah.
a lot of the imagery actually that they used in this kind of has an AI feel, but we won't spend too much time on that. My next one, this is a really cool package, and I really like this album. I've probably listened to this one the most this week. This is Bruce Dickinson's solo project, the Mandrake Project. And so what I ended up doing was buying the version that comes with like a little hardcover booklet, comes with like a little comic book, that sort of thing. So I actually enjoy this one more than Iron Maiden's latest studio albums, which is pretty interesting. I even like the sound on that one better. The next one I'm going to show you that didn't make my top five, but just slid into my top 10 is Ace Frehley's 10,000 Volts. Not going to say too much more about that one in case Tim brings it up. Let's see here. My most recent purchase. So this one didn't crack my top five only because I've only literally only had a few days to listen to it. This is Devin Townsend's latest album. I think this is like number 31. So he's had a huge discography. This one's called Power Nerd. I saved up for the special version with the slipcase and stuff. But so far, I'm loving it. He always does albums in cycles, and on this particular album, is almost like Devin's version of kind of 80s glam rock, I'll say. So
Okay.
need more time with that one. Kelly Jones, who is the lead singer of the Stereophonics, put out another album. He traditionally does with solo projects. He's done three now. They're usually kind of piano ballady and a little bit more wistful than like your jangly kind of Brit pop stereophonic stuff. But this is a fantastic album. But there's a few more that I like a little bit more than that one. And this one just recently got bumped. It was in my top five, but I had to make a switch. I wasn't expecting to really enjoy this one at all. Uh, this is Russell Guns. So you've got Jack Russell from ex Great White and Tracy Guns from LA Guns came together and collaborated and did a record together. And I think this is a really fun hard rock album.
Shame about that cover though.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a bad cover.
It is an AI kind of cover too. Um, I don't mind. It's got kind of the Medusa thing going on, but yeah. So that's everything that just missed my top five.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I've got it's okay. I got to start off with this one here. This has been kind of a running joke all this year, and I'm not holding this up necessarily because I think it's such a great album. I'm holding it up because I actually bought it, which is this to say I had bought an album by this band in quite some time. I had a little fun with the episode and the lead up to the episode, like I'm buying it incognito. But I do want to mention it because there are so few albums I bought this year. I'm talking about the latest Bon Jovi, Forever. And there's a couple pretty good songs on here, Living Proof and Waves. But all in all, it's pretty modern Bon Jovi sounding. But I was encouraged by a couple of people that bought it and said, yeah, it's not so bad. But I'm holding it up, but it's full of asterisks. It's like, yeah. Anyway, enough said. Um, Next one is one Matt already mentioned, Ace Frehley's 10,000 Volts. Now, all jokes aside, I made a lot of snarky comments about this because Ace was making a lot of snarky comments in the press leading up to this. It's really off base, unnecessary stuff, and it really soured me. Like I wasn't even going to buy it, but then I'm like, oh, I might as well buy it. And I just wish he had another singer on it for
Yeah.
some of the tracks, but I think there are some pretty good tracks on here. It's a good sounding album. There are some pretty good songs on here. Anyway, and the next one is actually a guy that's going to be appearing twice. He's an overachiever this year. The very first solo album from Honeymoon Suite, Derry Green, one of my favorite Canadian guitar players. He's shown there playing his classic tire track guitar, seen on the cover or the back cover of Racing After Midnight and all those videos. This album's called Dirty Power. It's instrumental, just a quick 9-song album, and I'm kind of liking it. It's got it's a guitar instrumental album, rock guitar. There's some shredding on here. He was always a fantastic guitarist, and this is really a chance for him to sort of let fly. So those are my honorables. So now we're getting into our 5 favorites for 2024. And I'll be honest, I had a bit of a hard time with the order of these. I think that there are some strong albums, surprisingly strong albums. I guess I'm surprised myself at how much I'm liking some. So we'll get into this with Matt's number 5.
Okay. My number five actually just swapped places with the Russell Guns project, and it's going to be Liam Gallagher and John Squire. I had only planned on buying this on CD, but when I went to get it at my local store, they amazingly at Backstreet Records had this on vinyl. It's like, yeah, I'll pick that up because I never see their stuff, never see his stuff, Liam Gallagher's solo stuff. So this is literally just called Liam Gallagher, John Squire. That's the actual name of the album. There's no like fancy name. So it's Liam Gallagher from, I was going to say ex Oasis, but I guess Oasis have reformed. So that's a big deal. And John Squire was the guitarist in the band that was big in Manchester just before Oasis hit called the Stone Roses.
Oh, wow. Big influence on Oasis, weren't they?
Exactly. And this is as janky, Beatlesy, poppy as you're going to get. I don't think this is my favorite thing that Liam's ever put out. His previous album, as it were, that was my favorite thing he's ever done. But this is really, really terrific. Unfortunately, I think this is going to get kind of
overshadowed.
Yeah, because of the Oasis reunion. So
yeah, I like that cover. It looks like it's spoofing.
Yeah, they take all
like that. Make It Up looks like a Tide box.
Yeah, different well-known product names. So
yeah.
The very first song was called Raise Your Hands. The big track off here is called Just Another Rainbow. And one of my favorites is close to the end of the I'm so bored. It's basically about people doom scrolling on their phone. I'm not here. I'm not really alive. I'm kind of just like living in my phone, which we find a lot of people get trapped into. So he's hitting some current affairs stuff, but keeping it light and fun. So that's my number five.
Cool. All right. So my number five is an album by a band that I didn't think was going to put out any more albums, but they got together for tour. Sadly, we could have gone to see them at the same venue that we ended up seeing Jeff Tate just a little bit earlier in the year, and it was just you which show you're going to go see. Kind of wish we'd have gone now, but I'm talking about Mr. Big. They came back with their 10th studio album. It's called 10, and I think this is really good. This is the first album that they did without drummer Pat Torpey, who passed away after the release of their last album. And the drummer and does some of the vocals on here. I never get his name right. Nick DeVrilio. I don't know how to say his name, but it's really good. Not a lot of Billy Sheehan contributions on here, actually. It's mostly Eric Martin and Paul Gilbert compositions, but the album certainly doesn't suffer for it. Really good fun listen. And yeah, that's my number five.
So Tim, they've kind of put a definitive, this is the end of our career, right? Like I've seen.
Well, they did, and now I've read statements where Eric Martin says, "I kind of wish we hadn't said that," but
they did do a recent live album too that's coming out from that tour, I heard too.
That's right, the Big Finish. Yeah, so hard to tell. And I know that Eric had to have a second vocalist on stage, so I mean, but this is another discussion. But if you can still sing in the studio and get good takes, put more music out.
Yeah.
But.
All right. My number four is from a band that's been around since, 1994. So they've been making music for 30 years. The first album was basically Ed Roland kind of writing and playing everything himself. This is Coney Hatch. Not Coney Hatch, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, oh, well, I missed something.
Yeah. Collective Soul. This is their 12th studio album, From Here to Eternity. This is actually a double album. There's like 20 tracks on here, and it's a full length listen. You've got the stuff that Collective Soul are known for, the really riff oriented guitar rock, and then there's songs on here like Bob Dylan, Where Are You Today, which is like just an acoustic kind of a number. So I really enjoyed this. Wasn't expecting to buy a Collective Soul album. They've consistently been putting out albums, so they've got 12 and quite a few live albums and EPs and that sort of thing. But yeah, this one really snuck in when it came out earlier this year, and it's very listenable, very catchy, and very singable. So yeah, Collective Soul is my number four.
Cool. So my number four is a musician we've already talked about, Gary Green and Honeymoon Suite, and they're back finally with the full-length album Alive. And it's interesting. This album is I don't want to call it poppy, because it's certainly not poppy in a modern sense, but there is a lightness to the production. But I think the songs are great. It's a 10-song album. There's a couple of remakes at the end, but it's a 10-song album. A lot of the songs are pretty short. It's very, very quick to listen to, and very catchy, as typical for Honeymoon Suite. This is the first full-length album they put out since Clifton Hill in 2008, and I'm pretty happy with it. I mean, I've been a big fan of this band for a long time. You never know what a modern album's going to sound like, but I get no complaints with this.
And that cover kind of looks like a Hugh Simon design, with the
It does. It's not. He did do the Big Prize cover, but yeah, it does. It's got that Hugh Simon feel. Hard to describe exactly why, but it just does.
Yeah. Cool. I assume you're going to be talking about this album, so I won't say too much about it. This is a band that's been around for at least 50 years.
Yeah.
I've only gotten into them in the last 3 or 4 years, and I'm happy to say that I finally am picking up some of their stuff on vinyl too. So when this came out, my number 3 is Deep Purple Equals One. So I got the limited purple vinyl inside version. I got this at I think it was my local Sunrise Records. And of course, I had to get the CD version as well. So equals one. I won't say a whole lot about this. It's another one, another modern album produced by Bob Ezrin. Um, Fantastic from start to finish. And they've been putting out, they always put out extra stuff. I forgot to mention on this one, there's like a DVD that kind of focuses on their latest tour. And of course, they've brought in a new guitarist. So I'll save Tim to talk about that stuff. I did pick up this little CD single, the songs, Pictures of You. Was that the very first single off of this?
It was either that or Portable Door.
That's right, Portable Door. Yeah. So that's my number three, Deep Purple equals one.
So my number three kind of snuck up on me. I wasn't planning on buying it. The running gag with our, our group chat is that I don't usually bother with solo albums and or side projects and or anything that's not the band, the main focus, stay focused. But I heard so many good things about this album, and this is a guy that hasn't been in his, you might as well say his band, since the 2008, something like that. And I kept hearing people saying how good this album is and how much it sounds like Yes, as opposed to the modern Yes album. So I said, well, you know what? I'll just buy it. Now, I can't. The cover looks is so non-representative. I mean, I guess his daughter took this, so I kind of felt bad for making fun of the cover on the YouTube video I did with Pete Pardo. But it's John Anderson and the Band Geeks, and the album's called True. And the Band Geeks are a bunch of musicians that specialize in progressive covers. Probably the best known guy is Richie Castellano, multi-instrumentalist. He was with Blue Oyster Cult, or maybe he still is. But this just sounds like a Yes album. This sounds like a modern day Yes album with John Anderson. And John Anderson's 80 years old, and he sounds fantastic on this. His vocals are top notch. I've listened to this a ton of times. I cannot get over how good this is. I like the new Yes albums too, but I get what people are saying. There's a little bit more life and energy to this one, and it's really well produced. And I don't really get a 70s Yes feel. I get more of an 80s, early 90s Yes feel, but I'm okay with that. So yeah, was not expecting to get it, and then was not expecting to like it, because I just kept going back to it. I get the songs in my head. So that's my number three. Actually, I gotta be honest, my number three, or my top three, are interchangeable. I think they're all fantastic, but they all had to slot in somewhere.
Right on. My number two is the latest. I mean, I say solo album, but he's been solo since the late 90s. This is the mighty Sebastian Bach with Child Within the Man.
I'll get my note too, because mine's also number two. We might as well talk about it at the same time.
Yeah, so got the vinyl and the CD. Tim, we had a chance to see Bach not too long ago.
Yeah.
Films. So, and he's been playing a lot of this album live.
Yeah, five of the 11 songs, and I was really happy to see that, because
yeah,
so good. This is amazing.
And he's been doing videos for each one. Actually, as of filming, he just released another video with a song that he's closing his sets with. He's not any Skid Row songs or any famous Sebastian Bach songs. He's ending his sets with Future of Youth.
Yeah.
What'd you think of this album?
Oh, I love it. I love it. I don't have I've got Kicking and Screaming. That's it. I'm a huge fan. And I wish that I liked his solo stuff more than I do, but it seems like to me this album, he's really, really concentrating on singing.
Yes.
Singing really, really well. And a strong bunch of songs. I mean, there were videos that came out. What Have I Got to Lose? Everybody Bleeds. Like both of those. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get this. And I can't remember which came first. Was it, knowing that he had a new album out, or knowing we were going to see him?
Yeah.
I don't know. But I know that's why I bought the vinyl, because I originally just bought the CD. But Ches and I reviewed this album when it came out. I think there's so many strong songs on here. I mean, he did 5 of the best, but I mean, the whole album, I don't think there are really any any weak points on here. And I would love to ask, if I could ask him one question, I would love to ask him about the closing track to Live Again, because to me, that song sounds from the first time I heard it like he wanted to do a Boston type anthemic ballad. That's what I hear when I hear that song. It's amazing. But I mean, the album's heavy, but it's melodic. And again, he's using that incredible voice to sing, not just scream. That's the problem I found with a lot of his solo stuff. It's very screamy, and I'm not into that. That's that's one of the reasons I never got into Subhuman Race that much. This is great, and I hope people are picking this up as he continues his tour, because he's actually making it available. He had a merch booth when we saw him and selling the CD. I hope he sells a ton of these because it's worth it. Yeah, my number 2 as well.
Yeah, I was happy to also see that on the credits it was mastered by Robert Ludwig.
Yeah.
Portland, Maine, which isn't too far from us. So
yeah.
You want me to go right into my number 1 then?
Yeah. This is the heavy hitters.
Since this album came out, I haven't really stopped listening to it. I love it so much, actually. I've got 3 copies. I'll tell you why, though. My number 1 album is the latest by the Black Crowes. This is their 9th studio album. It's called Happiness Bastards. Picked up this version at Bull Moose, the version, and I have 2 other copies. Got to have the CD. I've got 2 copies of the CD. Why is that, Matt? Actually, I wasn't a huge fan of the artwork, and it's pretty plain. These are the hype stickers that came with the album. This little icon of the 2 black, and this one as well. I just kind of stuck them on the artwork itself. The reason I bought these, this one was pretty cheap. The other version, it's got like a mini vinyl replica.
Oh, cool!
And of course, these little digipacks they don't really take up a lot of room on the shelf. So, yeah, I've got 3 copies of this album, and I haven't been able to stop listening to it since it came out. Unfortunately, none of the tracks are actually listed on here, which is super annoying.
Yeah, but that's kind of a failure of the packaging as far as I'm concerned.
This is my favorite. This is probably my favorite Black Crowes album since their 1999 album By Your Side, which is actually Black Crowes record. This is their first new album in 15 years. The first song was Wanting and Waiting, which is kind of like a pretty classic Black Crowes sounding. There's some stuff on here that's almost hard rock, but it's so catchy. And he's got such a way with words. I would listen to the first minute of the song and try to memorize what he's saying in the lyrics and just his inflection and rewind it back, because I just like that part of the song and trying to sing it back. They also did a song on here with country artist Lainey Wilson. I believe the song is called Wilted Rose, and she was featured in the TV show Yellowstone too. So she's a pretty up and coming artist. But I mean, if you love the Black Crowes, you're gonna absolutely dig that album. That's my favorite album of the year.
Cool. So my number 1, and Matt hinted at it, and I'm sure you all can figure it out by now. It's funny, this is a band that I got into in the early 90s when I got into a lot of classic rock bands. They're one of the founders of the music that we all love, hard rock and heavy metal. They spun off bands that I got really into, and they're just an institution. But I never ever thought I'd get one of their albums to place number 1, never mind a brand new album in 2024. But I cannot stop listening to Deep Purple Equals One. And I even got it on cassette. That's how much I like this album. I got it 3 formats. Actually, I got to get the Sebastian album on cassette too. His is on cassette. But anyway, yeah, this is great. I mean, this album is, it's weird. Yes, they have a new guitarist, Simon McBride, replacing Steve Morse, who had to step down. And it doesn't sound that different from all of their Bob Ezrin albums of recent years, like Whoosh and Infinite. But I just think there's just a really strong batch of songs that are all very hooky in different ways. I mean, we talked about Portable Door, Pictures of You. There's Lazy Sod. Now You're Talking, like the whole album. I mean, Show Me, Bit on the Side, love that one. That's got a great riff. A couple of really good ballads on here. Bleeding Obvious. The whole album just flows really, really well. It's on Ear Music, as their last few have been. And yeah, who would have thought a band whose first album came out in 1968 with one original member, Ian Pace, on drums, would come up with such a strong album this many years down the road. But kudos to the guys. They just came through with an album just full of really, really catchy songs, and the thing rocks. Ian Gillan's pushing his voice a little bit more. There's a couple tracks where he goes into that almost that classic Ian Gillan scream, and it's a testament to the fact that if you've got new music, if you've got something to say, it doesn't matter how old you are, keep on recording. Give us more music. This album, I think, has been pretty universally acclaimed since it came out too. But I was surprised. I surprised myself when I listened to all these things. Like I said, my top three were all close, but I've listened to this more than any of them. I think this is great. So my favorite of 2024, Deep Purple, equals 1. It all adds up to 1, folks. So there you go. Those are our picks for top albums of 2024. And we didn't talk about this before, Matt, but is there anything that, any bands or artists that you're hoping put some new music out in 2025?
Oh gosh, put me on the spot.
Yeah. Well, I'm just for me, like, and maybe if you want to think of some, I know that for a fact that Aldo Nova's working on a new album. It's not that full length Life and Times of Eddie Gage. He's actually working on a brand new album. He's kind of put that to the side. So I'm looking forward to that.
The Darkness have a new album.
Yes.
Soon.
Dreams on Toast.
Yeah, unfortunately, coming out before we've had a chance to do this. Obviously, I think it's coming out in March, maybe.
Yeah, that'll be next year's episode anyway. But
the Oasis reunion, I was frothing over them getting back together. I looked at getting tickets when I found out it was $800 for a standing general admission ticket, and I'd have to fly to Toronto to see them. Kind of passed on that, but I'm more excited about an album by Oasis. It's been since 2009. So the brothers have been doing their own projects, and I love those. But the prospects of another Oasis album has me most excited. So
yeah, I'm also looking forward to. I've got it pre-ordered. It'll be out in the new year. The new Dream Theater, the first new one with Mike Portnoy since 2009. I honestly, I didn't see that reunion coming, but it seems to be going very well. And I'm just looking around. I'd love a new Night Ranger album. I think it's about time. Sammy Hagar says he's going to do an album with that lineup that did that last tour. So,
I mean, that's basically Chickenfoot with a new drummer, right?
Well, it's like the second incarnation of Chickenfoot if they've got Kenny with them, but
right.
Or if Jason, they could call it Circlefoot.
Yes.
But
probably the one from Ace Frehley, probably be a covers album.
Yeah, on his previous schedule, he would have had one out this year, but I'm glad he put out a brand new album of new songs. So yeah, another covers album. I hope he gets a little more ambitious with the track selection. I'd love to hear a new Kansas album with this current lineup. Yeah, who knows? But yeah, for sure, The Darkness and Dream Theater for me. And it would be cool if we get surprised again. Somebody comes out of nowhere that we haven't heard from in a while, puts out a new album, and it's really, really good. So, all right, who could say? So there you go, folks. What are your favorite albums that have come out in 2024? List them below. Thank you for watching. Be sure and subscribe if you haven't hit subscribe. My analytics tell me I've got more people watching that aren't subscribed than are. So take 2 seconds, doesn't cost a thing. Hit the subscribe button. It helps me out a lot. If you want to support the channel, we've got all kinds of merch at tpublic.com. Matt's got a classic TBC logo shirt on there. My books are available through Amazon. Those links will be below. I want to thank everybody for watching this edition of Tim's Vinyl Confessions.